Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She stood by the front door, adjusting her earrings in the mirror, grinning like she was headed to prom. Don't wait up, she said casually, grabbing her keys. Then she looked over her shoulder and added, Oh, and Marvin? I'm going on a date tonight. Don't be jealous. And she laughed, like I was the punchline, like this was all normal, like I hadn't been paying the mortgage, cooking her dinners, folding her socks for the past 8 years. She didn't expect me to say anything. That was the game. Say something cruel, play it off like a joke, and walk out before I could react. But this time I didn't freeze. I didn't chuckle awkwardly. I just looked at her and said one thing, then I'll make sure everything with my name on it is gone before you come back. She didn't laugh again. Not a breath. Her hand hovered over the doorknob. What did you just say? I didn't repeat myself. And that silence, that 3-second pause, told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't bluffing. She was going on a date. She didn't expect consequences. She didn't think I would be the one to change the rules. She walked out anyway, and I just stood there, heart thudding, face burning, realizing I didn't even know who I'd been married to anymore. But I was about to find out. I didn't move for at least a full minute after the door closed. Not out of shock, I was done being shocked. I just didn't want to give her the satisfaction of watching me crumble through the window. I stood there like the room was made of glass, like any sudden movement might shatter what little of me was still whole. Then I walked upstairs and opened our closet. Not hers. Ours. Half of it was hers, but she always let her stuff overflow to my side. Her heels kicked beneath my hoodies, her perfume bottles lined up beside my shaving cream like they had equal say. I grabbed a box from the top shelf, one I hadn't touched since my dad's funeral. I had kept it for when I move out. A joke I made once during an argument that ended with her laughing and calling me sensitive. Funny how now it didn't feel like a joke anymore. I filled it with whatever had my name on it, the birth certificate, my passport, my grandfather's watch, the folder with the car title she didn't even know I had a copy of. I moved methodically like I was executing a plan I'd written long ago in my head, and maybe I had. Maybe every ignored red flag had quietly folded itself into this moment, whispering you were always going to leave like this. I opened our joint account on my phone and froze. A $600 charge at some place called Luna's, a hotel we'd never stayed in, not even on anniversaries. I clicked the details. Champagne service. In-room dinner for 2. Last night. My stomach twisted, but I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just stared at the screen like it was a mirror and thought, she's been planning this longer than I have. I closed the banking app, logged into mine, the one in my name only, the one she never cared to know existed because she assumed I had nothing to hide. I transferred what I needed. Then I started deleting myself from the house. Insurance policies, dated. Streaming accounts, signed out. Password manager, cleared. Even the guest Wi-Fi password changed. It wasn't rage that drove me. It was a deep, dull ache. A kind of mourning. I wasn't just leaving her. I was leaving the version of me who begged for crumbs and called it a meal. By the time the sun dipped low, I was done. 1 box, 1 duffel, 1 laptop bag. That was all I was taking from a life I spent almost a decade building. I didn't want anything else, especially not the memories. But before I left, I placed one thing right where I knew she'd see it. A note. Just 1 sentence in my handwriting on the notepad we used for grocery lists. Now you don't have to pretend you're joking. No signature. No goodbye. No room for argument. And then I walked out the door she'd walked through hours earlier. The difference was, she didn't expect not to find me on the other side. I had no plan for where I was going. I just drove. My duffel bag rattled in the passenger seat with every turn, like it was reminding me I wasn't dreaming. Every stoplight gave me a chance to turn back. But I didn't. I passed our usual grocery store, the diner we always said we'd try but never did, the flower shop where I once bought her white tulips just because she'd had a bad day. She hated white tulips, said they looked funereal. I didn't know that until she threw them in the trash. Eventually, I pulled into a motel 2 towns over. One of those places with flickering signs and curtains that don't close all the way. It smelled like bleach and regret, But the bed was clean and the door locked, and that was more than I could say for the house I left behind. I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd even notice I was gone, or if she'd just sigh, pour a glass of wine, and call him. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. 37 missed calls. 22 texts. All from her. They started flirty. Okay, you win. Come home and sulk with me. Then annoyed. Seriously? You're being ridiculous. Then panic. Where are you? Marvin, I'm scared. Please call me. I didn't reply. Not yet. Around 10 a.m. I checked the door camera feed from our house. She had just pulled into the driveway. I watched her step out of her car wearing the same green dress as the night before, her heels clicking confidently up the path. She looked relaxed, smug even, like she thought I'd be inside sulking, ready to be guilt-tripped back into submission. She opened the front door and stepped in, phone in hand, still typing something. Probably another snarky text. Then she stopped, froze. Her head turned slowly, scanning the silence. I watched her lips move. Marvin. No answer. She walked deeper into the house. The living room emptier. The kitchen spotless. The hallway silent. Then she reached the bedroom. Her reflection in the mirrored closet doors told me everything. That smirk? Gone. Her face folded into something between confusion and disbelief. She opened the closet and saw my side stripped bare. She knelt, pulled open the drawer where I kept my watch and wedding band, and found nothing. And then she saw the note. She didn't touch it, just stared at it like it might catch fire. She sat on the edge of the bed and called me again. I watched the phone light up. Her name still came up with that little heart emoji she made me add years ago. I let it ring. Then I powered the phone off again. She thought this was a game. She thought I'd blink first, that I'd crawl back with apologies just because she called it a joke. But now she was sitting in a house filled with echoes, and none of them were mine. By the time I turned my phone back on that evening, she had already gone from texting in all caps to voice messages laced with trembling. I didn't listen to them. I just watched the waveforms move across the screen, my finger hovering over the play button, heart racing like I was about to step into a trap. That's what it felt like. Every attempt from her to reach me was a trap lined with apologies she didn't mean, laced with just enough fake concern to make me doubt my own memory of what she'd done. One message finally popped up that made me stop cold. I told my mom you left. She's asking if you're okay. I didn't mean to upset you, Marvin. I didn't go on a date, okay? I swear. It was a joke. Just a stupid joke. Please, come home. She was pulling in reinforcements now. Her mother, the same woman who once called me too gentle for Camilla. I remember that Thanksgiving. She said it with a smile, like she was complimenting me. I thought she meant kind. What she really meant was weak. Camilla didn't deny it. She just laughed. But now she was weaponizing that same image of me. The soft husband, the harmless one, the man she could push and pull like warm taffy, hoping I'd crawl back because she'd made a sad face and said the word please. Instead, I went to the only place I still felt invisible. A coffee shop downtown with flickering lights and a broken outlet no one ever sat near. I slipped into the corner seat and just watched people. Couples ordering together, teens bickering over who would pay, a man trying to read a newspaper while his kids spilled cocoa. I wanted to reach into their lives and borrow an ounce of their normal. But mine was gone, and I'd let it erode year after year, one insult, one joke, one eye roll at a time. That's when she sent the photo. It was the green dress, laid flat across our bed, her heels beside it. The caption read, "I took it off for you. Please let me fix this." Fix what? The humiliation? The lies? The months of watching her text with a smile that never seemed meant for me? The girls' nights that ended with her smelling like hotel soap and someone else's cologne? I didn't reply. I booked 2 extra nights at the motel. Then I ordered food, watched the ceiling, and let myself cry for the first time in, God, I don't even know how long. Maybe I wasn't crying for her. Maybe I was mourning the man I used to be, the one who would have done anything to earn back the affection of someone who laughed while walking away from him. Let her sit in that silence. Let her marinate in the absence of the man she thought would never leave. Because for the first time in years, I had finally truly left. It didn't take long before her silence turned into chaos. By the end of the second day, my phone had exploded with calls from people I hadn't heard from in months. Her sister, her coworker, even her old college roommate I barely knew. Camilla had gone into full damage control mode, and I could tell from every message that she wasn't sorry I was gone. She was terrified people might find out why. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened a separate email I hadn't touched since I set it up years ago. One I used only for receipts, random newsletters, and the occasional password reset. I had a hunch and I followed it. I searched the word Luna's, the hotel where she'd spent that $600. And there it was, buried in the spam folder like a forgotten ghost. Thank you for your stay. We hope to see you again soon. 2 guests. King Suite. Date. 3 days ago. I clicked on the link to the hotel site and checked their gallery. Room 312. The same decor I'd seen once before, by accident, when Camilla left her gallery app open. She'd told me it was from Pinterest. Now I knew better. She hadn't even bothered to cover her tracks. She thought she'd never have to. I was Marvin, after all. The man who asked before opening her mail, who apologized when she bumped into me, who once spent 3 hours fixing her laptop charger because she didn't want to spend $20 on a new one. I was easy, forgiving, predictable. Not anymore. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. But something inside me, it wasn't anger, not really, pushed me to leave her one small sign. Something subtle. A spark to light the match she thought I'd never strike. So I logged into our shared streaming account. The one she always hogged for her trashy dating shows. I changed the profile name to Don't Be Jealous. Just that. Nothing else. Not a message. Not a threat. Just her words, thrown back like a mirror. And minutes later, boom. Incoming call. Camilla. I didn't answer. She called again. Then finally a voicemail. Her voice wasn't sweet or playful now. It cracked, like she'd been crying, or trying not to. Marvin, what do you want from me? I get it. Okay? I screwed up. But you always take things too far. You always do this, go silent, act like the victim. It was a joke. You know it was. Please just... Can we talk? I'll tell you everything. Just come home. No, Camilla. You don't get to set the rules anymore. You don't get to decide when I'm allowed to hurt, or for how long. I powered off the phone again and stared at the ceiling. Same water stain above the bed. Same hum of the cheap motel AC. Same weak Wi-Fi. But somehow I'd never felt more powerful. It's funny how it doesn't take shouting, or slamming doors, or even a confrontation to shake someone. Sometimes the loudest message you can send is your absence. And she was finally starting to hear it. 3.5 days. That's how long I lasted before the curiosity started to win. Not regret. Don't get that confused. I didn't miss her. I missed clarity. I wanted to know what version of the story she was telling the world while I stayed hidden. So I powered my phone on and went online, not to social media, not to messages, but straight to one of her old friends' public pages. Monica never changed her privacy settings. I knew she wouldn't. And right there, under a freshly posted selfie of her with Camilla and a few others at some cafe, was the caption. A girl's night to cheer up our sweet Cammy. Some men can't handle a joke. It wasn't even subtle. I read it 3 times before the weight of it fully landed. That was it. That was the narrative. Not that Camilla had crossed a line. Not that she'd humiliated me in our home. Just that I'd overreacted. That I was too sensitive. The same tired excuse she'd used for years. But here's the part one didn't expect. Camilla had already figured out where I was. Not through tracking. Not through bank alerts or GPS. She'd remembered something I never thought she paid attention to. The name of the motel I once said my dad used to stay in when visiting for work. I mentioned it during a boring drive to her cousin's wedding. She'd mocked the name. Everpine? Sounds like a brand of cheap soap. I thought she forgot. She hadn't. It was just after 7 p.m. when I heard the knock. Not a pounding, not angry. Soft. Hesitant. I didn't move at first. But then I peeked through the peephole and there she was. Hair up, no makeup, hoodie, sneakers. Camilla, realer than I'd seen her in years. I opened the door halfway. No words. She looked at me like she'd rehearsed something 100 times and forgotten it the second our eyes met. I didn't sleep with him, she blurted. I didn't. I know you think I did. But I didn't. I didn't flinch. I didn't nod. I just waited. She stepped closer, stopping when she realized I hadn't moved an inch to invite her in. It was stupid. I wanted attention. I wanted to see if you'd react. You've been so distant. I thought maybe if I pushed you, you'd fight for me again. So that was it. Not an apology. A justification. I wasn't distant, I said finally. I was tired. Tired of what? Of trying to prove I was worth staying loyal to. Her face fell. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. I could see it now. The cracks she'd been hiding with lip gloss and laughter. The fear that maybe I wasn't playing along this time. That maybe the joke was finally on her. Marvin, she whispered. Please come home. I stepped back, hands still on the door. Home is where someone laughs with you, I said. Not at you. And then I closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. Calmly. Fully. Without apology. She stayed out there for a while. I could hear her pacing. Then the sound of her car door. Then nothing. That silence? It didn't hurt anymore. The next morning felt lighter. Not in the way that everything was fine, because it wasn't, but in the way a person feels when they stop pretending. I took a slow walk around the block near the motel, grabbed a terrible cup of vending machine coffee from the lobby, and sat outside on the broken bench near the dumpster. It was ugly, but it was quiet. And honest. I hadn't had honest in a long time. Then a man sat down next to me. Mid-30s, denim jacket, hotel room key dangling from his fingers. I gave a polite nod, thinking nothing of it. He stayed quiet for a moment, then said, You're Marvin, right? I stiffened. Yeah? He didn't smile, didn't blink much either, just looked down at his hands and muttered, She told me you wouldn't be here anymore. I stared at him like I'd misheard. I'm sorry. Who are you? He looked at me then, regret in his eyes so thick it made my stomach churn. My name's Brett. I was seeing Camilla. I didn't know she was married at first. My whole chest locked. My vision narrowed like the air around me had thickened. She told me you were separated. Said you were living with your mother while sorting paperwork. She said you were a good guy, just too attached. He swallowed hard. I stopped seeing her weeks ago. It didn't feel right, but she reached out again recently. Said she was going to end things for real this time, and that she wanted to spend the weekend away to celebrate. Luna's? I asked before I could stop myself. He flinched. That was all the confirmation I needed. I swear I didn't know until that morning. She left her phone unlocked on the bathroom counter. I saw your name. A message you sent months ago. I started piecing it together. My fists were clenched so tight my fingers ached. He noticed. I'm not proud of it, he added. I didn't come here to start anything. I figured you deserved the truth. Even if it's late. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My heart was pounding too loud. Brett stood up, slid a folded receipt onto the bench beside me. One from Luna's. Then he walked off without another word. I sat there for what felt like an hour, not reading the receipt, just staring at it like it was a map to a life I never wanted to see clearly. Everything she said the night before about wanting attention, about not sleeping with him, was a lie. A smooth, polished, well-rehearsed lie. And what hit me hardest wasn't the betrayal. It was the fact that even when caught, even when I was already halfway out the door, she still couldn't bring herself to tell me the truth. She thought the version of me she'd broken would always take less than honesty. Not anymore. I didn't go back to the motel. I didn't go back to the house either. Instead, I drove. No destination, no GPS, just a gut instinct to keep moving forward. I pulled off the highway near a small town I'd never heard of, grabbed a sandwich at a quiet cafe, and sat by the window as the world carried on around me. Couples laughed. Kids argued over cookies. People existed in their own stories. For once, I wasn't the background character in mine. That same afternoon, I walked into a local law office. Not because I was angry, because I was ready. I told the receptionist I wanted to file for divorce. When she asked if I wanted to leave a message for my wife's attorney, I smiled for the first time in days and said, "She'll understand when she sees the papers." I didn't leave with bitterness. I left with clarity. Camilla wasn't the villain of my story. She was the lesson. A reminder that love built on manipulation isn't love. That jokes at someone else's expense aren't funny. That when someone tells you, "Don't be jealous," while putting on lipstick and lies, you have every right to walk away and not look back. The night before I left that town, I wrote one final message and scheduled it to send to her the moment the divorce papers landed in her inbox. It said, "Thank you for setting me free. No anger, no accusations, just truth." And as for me, I found a quiet place to stay, one with clean sheets, a window that opens, and silence that doesn't feel like punishment. I'm building something new now, not revenge, not a rebound, just a life I can finally call mine. So to anyone listening who feels small, ignored, or humiliated in their own home, please hear this. You are not hard to love. You were just loving someone who preferred control over connection. Thank you for following my story here on Reddit Confessions. If it resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment that forced you to choose yourself, no matter how hard it was?